Welcome, guys. Welcome to a brand new interview. Today we have Reza Imtiaz from Boston, right?
Reza Mohammed, yeah.
Nice. Reza Mohammed. Right. Was that your middle name?
Yeah, it's my middle name. It's on my email.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome, man. So Reza joined us 3 months ago, and it's quite interesting how Reza's journey unfolded because you jumped into a completely new endeavor. So you started doing sales for a online business company. But before that, you had your own therapy business, if I remember correctly, right?
Exactly.
Cool, man. So yeah, why don't you just introduce yourself real quick before I mess anything up and get the wrong background? Uh, Give us a little bit of history about where you were before you joined and what life was like.
For sure. So I was working as a therapist for about 3 years before I joined Reality Mastery, and things were good, but one of the reasons I joined was because I couldn't break through I think people might hear this a lot on this channel, like break through a certain income level or like a barrier. But it wasn't really because of like what I was doing with my marketing or like my clinical work, because theoretically it was all good. And I just kind of had the sense there was something internal that was kind of holding me back. So, for me as an entrepreneur, I never worked a real W-2 job. I've always been doing my own thing, whether it's therapy or like other side hustles. But I kind of needed something to like really stabilize my internal world so I could start to see consistent revenue. And it led me into a lot deeper things. That was like the kind of like superficial aspect of what I wanted, but the journey led me into like a whole new world of internal things, which have been really, really great.
That's awesome, man. Okay, so I'm sorry. I think my mic was a different mic. It sounds better now, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So how long have you been in therapy? So you graduated in 2018, right? So what was your journey like as a therapist?
Yeah, it was a little non-traditional because I've always been interested in like, really spiritual modalities. So I've been studying like karma, reincarnation, all that really cool stuff and like yogic stuff,
Uh-huh.
which is kind of what drew me to this because I know you integrate a lot of that. And I've been doing like a non-traditional form of therapy that was really effective. And then doing things like plant medicine. I would go to Brazil and drink ayahuasca in like the forest. It's one of my favorite things to do. But so I was doing things like that, and as I was going about my therapist journey, it was all really transformative, but it got me to this place of like really deep inner peace for the most part. Obviously things come up, but I didn't have like a clear vision of what I want,
Hmm.
why I was doing what I was doing, what I really wanted to like have be, my purpose in life, so that when I die and I look back at my life, I'm like, oh, I did everything that I really wanted to do.
Hmm.
Um, so I just felt kind of stuck there. And then obviously, when you're not clear internally, externally, my income level was going up and down. Some weeks it was awesome. Some weeks it was like one fourth of what it was.
Uh-huh.
So I realized, okay, if everything externally is kind of an internal reflection, there's something I'm missing, and there must be like a missing piece in my therapeutic modality. Even though it was really remarkable for helping people with trauma, anxiety, depression, some physical things like chronic pain, it didn't feel like a complete model to me if I couldn't like embody it myself and be where I wanted to be.
Hmm.
So it kind of made me want to search for something else, and that's how I found this.
Right. So when you were running your own practice, what was that like? Was it like in person? Were you doing it online?
It was in person.
Okay.
Then I had to switch to Zoom with COVID, but when COVID hit, it wiped out my entire practice
Hmm.
because, at the beginning, most of my clients were in person and then they were panicking. A lot of them lost their jobs, and then my practice just went to zero.
Right.
Um, so that was a pivotal moment for me, actually.
How much were you making in your practice, like per month?
On average, I would say about 5 to 7K. But then there were times where it would go less and sometimes it would go more. It was really inconsistent. Like there were some months where I hit like 9K, 10K, and then it would go to like 4K the next month. And I wasn't really changing anything with my marketing.
Right. Okay. And how are you getting clients back then?
It's a therapist thing, but we're using Psychology Today. And then I would use Facebook ads
Okay.
sometimes. So those two.
Okay. And how many hours a week were you working?
Oh God. A lot. I was doing like 10 to 30 hours of clients per week. And then I had to do like, administrative stuff, documentation, things like that. So
Okay.
then with that, it was like 40 to 50 sometimes.
Oh crap. So you're working pretty much, because the 10 to 30 hours of actual one-on-one time that you do with clients, that's pretty taxing, I bet, because you're really, you're focused, you're concentrated on at least hearing your clients out, solving their problems. But on top of that, you got to do stuff like admin stuff that I guess nobody, no therapist would want to do. So, and you were doing all of that yourself, right? You didn't have like an assistant or anything?
No, yeah, I was I was part of a group practice. I have two mentors who are psychologists, but when it comes to the admin stuff, it was more so like not admin for clients, but more so admin around, writing book proposals, researching marketing opportunities, things like that,
Gotcha.
which I'm not passionate about, but they're kind of necessary if you're running a private practice.
Okay, so you were doing 50 hours a week and you're cracking barely 10K, usually around 5 to 8K a month.
Yeah, 10K was like the best month. I'd say
Mhm.
on average, probably like 6K a month.
How much are you making now in commissions per month?
A lot more. I think so far, I'm just looking at my tracker. I've done about $300,000 in revenue of sales. So that's about 30 grand with accounts receivable. And
Okay.
I've only done 163 hours of work. So my hourly wage is, well, 163 hours of calls, right? Which is
Yeah,
kind of like sitting with a client, so to speak. But I think hourly, what I'm making, it's like not even comparable.
right. So per month, like what does that translate to? If we
Good
could
question.
apples to apples.
Apples to apples, I'd say first month, including accounts receivables, about 15K. Second month, there was a delay period and I went down to 6K. But this month, I'm halfway through it and about already at 9K for the month.
Wow.
So
So this is looking
yeah,
like an
that
18K month.
yeah, it's looking that way. So I'd say on average, probably north of like 10K per month already, and I've only been doing it for about 3 months.
Got it. So you're saying your very first month that you started your sales job, you hit 15K in commissions.
Yeah, it was about
That's insane.
150,000. Yeah, revenue.
That is insane. So let's talk about that. You had your therapy practice and then you got wiped out by COVID. How did you come across like this online business and how did you, join that and become a salesperson?
Yeah. So it's really interesting because I found Sam Ovens and I thought Sam Ovens was going to be like the key for me. It was going to help me take my therapy practice to the next level and really like, you know, scale my business there. But you've talked about this a lot where there can be so many people who go through the same program but get entirely different results. We launched an online training program. It did okay, but it was unsustainable. The cash ROI wasn't good enough to sustain it. The offer wasn't right. There was marketing things. Um, and it didn't really take my therapy practice to the next level. It did for a little bit, but then my practice got wiped out again because we turned off our Facebook ads and then I lost all of my clients. Um, so it was just a reflection of like that up and down internally. So it
Mhm.
didn't really do much. And then that's when I actually reached out to someone, Chester, because I saw what he was doing. And I was really, intrigued by like his vision and like the results he was getting. And then when I actually started working with him on this new venture, that's when I took the dive into this and then started like solidifying my internal world.
Got it. So you joined, if we get like an accurate timeline here, you joined Reality Mastery right at the beginning of you beginning this new job as a sales rep, right?
Exactly.
What inspired that?
It's a good question. So I've been following you for years, and um, I think in the past year or so, I started to resonate with your content more. I'm not sure exactly why. Like I was like more drawn into it than before, and I was always on the fence of joining, but I was so caught up with my therapy practice that I never got around to it. But then when I kind of went to this new position, and I was realizing, all right, I'm in a new field. I don't know what I'm doing. I need the kind of like expert mentorship and guidance, especially um, with sales. That's kind of what pushed me to join. And then just seeing people's kind of experiences and results, that pushed me to join externally. But internally, I think I was drawn to it because I realized there's something missing in my methodology as a therapist. If I'm not practicing what I preach, and my external was so chaotic, there had
Yeah.
to be something that I was missing.
Got it. Could you elaborate on that? Like, what did you feel you were missing?
Good question. So I think in like some of my posts in school, I mentioned like I'd done literally everything I could find. I've done psychedelics. I've done like, all these amazing forms of therapy for personal growth, shamanic journey, so many different things. And it really got me to this place of like neutrality and inner peace for the most part. But that's fine. And I mean, it's a wonderful thing. And like it took a while to get there. But in terms of like goal achievement,
Mm,
I was missing the fact that to create like, you know, new karma and create like, these new levels of being, you really need to be a lot more conscientious. So it was the goal achievement part and
got
redirecting the new energy and the karma.
got it. So it's interesting you say that. You mentioned that you did all of those things and it helped you get to this place of neutrality, of like peace and calm, but you still weren't able to transfer that into achieving your goals. You still didn't know how to channel that to achieving your goals, right?
Exactly.
How do you think reality mastery helped you with that?
Oh my God, man, it changed the game. Um, like I'll tell you, I'm looking at my tracker right now. So far this month, I've only done 21 like enrollment calls, and I have like nine deals already. 43% conversion rate, 424% cash ROI. And I don't think I'm a particularly good sales rep. I think it's just reality mastery, right? Where learning how to channel your free energy and kind of like propel reality is what's making things like this happen. And it's simply, I think for me at least, what it was realizing what I need to do day to day and how to consciously control my thought processes, how I spend my time, my vision for myself, and kind of make life a walking meditation, which has made me a lot more non-reactive and be able to like have like miraculous starts to months like this.
This is so great. I think this will be so key to anyone who has like a business centered around sales, like doing sales calls or even just like marketing online. So if any of you are listening to this, I hope this is super valuable to you. But just going back into your journey, Reza, you've have you done sales before?
I did for our online training and like for my own therapy practice because you're always selling because I actually I wasn't on insurance, which I think 90% of therapists are. So I always had to like sell myself to like get clients, but
Mhm.
never high ticket like this.
Okay, so you've never ever sold a high ticket product, that's maybe more than 5K.
Correct.
Okay. But even doing whatever sales you were doing before, how many appointments, how many sales calls, how many hours would you say you've done prior?
Maybe like 100 hours max.
Okay, 100 hours max. From my experience, it takes at least 500 hours for someone to become as experienced as, the kind of results we're seeing you get. But you were able to completely bypass that and just use 100 hours and milk the most experience from those 100 hours. But you mentioned that something extra, that extra oomph that kind of helped you skyrocket that. So let's go back to your journey when you started with Chester and your new company. When you started off, what was your sales journey like? Like, were you immediately right off the bat closing like crazy or?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think in my first week, um, maybe closed like one or two deals out of like 10 or 12 calls, just kind of like standard, anything a little bit below average. But the key for me was kind of, you had talked about this in the program about, holding the internal world consistent and the mirror principle,
Mhm.
which followers of your channel may know. And it was interesting because reality mastery made me really non-attached, where at the beginning, I didn't care if I closed or didn't close. Um, I was totally open to the fact I might fail, I might be really successful, I might get fired, and I felt kind of inner peace no matter what. And then I just held, everything consistent internally of what I wanted, kept taking the action, and then all of a sudden after those first 10 calls, it exploded. And I think, I ended up around like a 40% close rate for my first month.
Wow, that's crazy. And it's not just I don't think that's beginner's luck because now you're pretty much consistently doing it.
Yeah, I really think it's the program, man. Like I didn't know what I didn't know, if that makes sense. Where like I didn't realize how important it was to like control your thoughts and your energy like daily. And I simply thought just because I got into a place of inner peace, oh, life is gonna be like rosy and like green and like amazing all the time. But it wasn't the case, right? Things were still happening. I wasn't in full control of like, myself and my reality. But it's changing a lot ever since I joined. It's awesome.
So in what way did you feel that you weren't fully in control and that something was still missing? Like what made you think that?
That's a good question. Um, I think for me, it was the entrepreneurship journey because it's a really clear reflection of your internal when you see like, the results your clients are getting, your revenue levels, your business performance. Um, because it's kind of like, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So I realized that because my business and my actual, income and what I was seeing reflected wasn't where I felt like it should be, then I realized, okay, there's something up and then I need to do something about it.
Got it. And how long, like what's one goal that you've had for a very long time for your income that you weren't able
Um,
to get with the therapy practice? So it kind of made you frustrated and think, whoa, I'm not doing it. I'm inconsistent. I'm not getting the kind of money that I want. What was that goal?
yeah. So when I was a therapist, it was a little bit lower actually, just because of like, the industry. I was aiming for about 10K per month consistently, and I would get there, I would get lower. It was just all over the place. But now with the program, I think I kind of have a hygiene standard of like doing 100K a month in sales, which is like 10 grand commissions minimum. And, that kind of just feels like it's a little bit underselling at this point. And I'm kind of shoot for 20K per month for myself and 200K per month for like the, whatever team I'm working for.
Mhm.
That's kind of what it feels like internally is more acceptable with like how I perform now.
Got it. So I think from that, an important piece that you brought up is the hygiene standard. When you were working at the therapy practice, your hygiene standard was 5K a month. Like you just got to do 5K and 10K is the goal because it's hard to make as a therapist 10K a month. But now you're seeing, wait a second, I can easily make 10K a month. This is my hygiene standard. So I should be aiming for 20. Do you see that?
Exactly.
That's very interesting. And that's how it works for a very long time. Like my personal hygiene standard was, all right, well, at least make 20K a month. 20K a month, that's the hygiene standard. Anything else is a bonus on top of that. But that brings me to another point, which is the attachment piece that you talked about. Because you mentioned initially, you're a little bit attached on the cause, your internal world wasn't quite where you wanted it to be. Could you elaborate on that? How did you overcome that, and how did that translate to your sales?
That's a really good question. So I'm going to answer the second part first because when I overcame it, there was actually like a really key example of it yesterday where I had someone who was on the verge of signing up, entered in all their credit card information, and then all of a sudden their husband calls and they need to talk to them and they're like, okay, I need like 2 more days to like figure it out. So, for some people that would cause them to be really anxious, like, oh, I just lost the sale. Honestly, I didn't really care. I didn't really feel a difference internally. I think she's going to come back and she's going to actually, work with us because she could feel the energy. She could feel like what we're all about and if we're the right fit. But at the beginning, when things like that would happen, I'd be like, oh my God, I just lost a deal. But now I
Mm,
kind of see it as like, all right, there's something good coming out of this. Like, I don't know why this happened, but I assume it's happening, for my advantage or it's just a delay. And I don't really get kind of phased by it. So I think when you're in sales too, it can be so stressful for some people. But what this program has done is kind of give me that bulletproof mindset where when things like that happen, I honestly kind of laugh because I'm assuming it's happening like for the better and I just can't see it yet. And then in some way, whether she signs up or she doesn't, I just know it's for the better, whether she's going to be like, a bad client in our course or wasn't really the right fit for her or just wasn't meant to be, or she's going to come back, have even more clarity and be like one of our best customers. So that's kind of what it's done for my mindset, which I think is invaluable if you're in sales.
very, very interesting. That's very interesting. A lot of people don't see it that way because they're like, oh, I lost the sale. In the moment, you're like, I wanted to get this, but I didn't get this. And you fall asleep in the, oh my God, I'm so close to getting this. And then you're like, oh shit, I didn't get it. But then you don't think about future consequences of what would have happened if you got a terrible client. Maybe they would ruin the whole group dynamic. Maybe they wouldn't get results and complain all the time and they would just be a headache to deal with. But now you can reframe that and see the advantage in it, which then brings in more of the good stuff. It puts you onto favorable lifelines where better things can happen in your life. That's something that took me a very, very long time to realize because I was like always skeptical. I was like, all right, well, this is clearly bad because I wanted this and it didn't happen. So nothing good can ever come out of it. So how did you get to that point in your mindset? Because it's kind of easy to say like, oh, just look at the bright side, just look at the positive side of things. What happened within Reza that made that shift happen?
That's a good question. So I think, for those of you who join Reality Mastery, which I'd say, definitely join if you want to take your sales to the next level, what you learn to do is you learn how to really process the negative, where you don't avoid, you know, thoughts that are coming up that are negative, so to speak, whether it's anxiety, depression, sadness, whatever's coming up in your body. You learn how to actually face your suffering and fully feel it instead of resisting it. Because when you resist it or you suppress it, then it starts to fester and it generates externally in other ways. But if you face it head on, then what happens is that it dissipates, you become internally clear, and then you can have those experiences where, things like what happened to me don't really phase you that much, and you get better results. To keep it simple, that's kind of how I would explain it.
See, everything that you just explained, Reza, it's like you do that in a fraction of a second in the moment dynamically, right? Like the feelings coming up and you're dynamically processing it every single minute of the day. So how did you get to that point of, okay, what initially immediately happens on the call when she says, oh, you know what? I got to think about it. Or, you know what? I got to talk to my husband about it. I need 2 days. So what initially happens and how do you deal with that?
It's a good question. So what I like to do is I kind of feel before I respond, or I'll notice like there's a tightness in my chest or a pit in my stomach or some kind of like discomfort in my body. And then I just kind of feel it. And I wait a second and I notice it starts to dissipate and I start to like wake up, I start to realize, oh, wait, I'm not this anxiety. I'm not this like stress in my stomach. That's just like a fraction of me. It's not who I really am.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do that, you kind of become the witness instead of like the character in the dream. And you can respond however you want. You could respond happily, angrily. You have full choice. And then people can feel that. Like, I didn't even like push that much on the call because I just have a feeling she's going to come back and like be like, hey, I looked at the other options. You guys are the best. I'm going to work with you. But the thing is, it gives you not only the choice to respond in any way you want by fully feeling it, but people sense it. They pick up on it. And like, I've had people just like want to work with us just because from my perspective, like from them feeling the energy of like what we're all about, which I think is because of, the work that we do around mastery.
This is sales gold. This is absolute like sales gold that you're dropping here, because a lot of people they get so hung up on the techniques and the tactics of how do I increase my close rate? How do I, get more leads and how do I close them better? And they start to do all of the NLP work and say this line and do that line. Have you had experience with any of those?
Yeah. So in my sales training, I learned about those and I'm like I understand how to like do those things, but to me those are just like techniques. I know we talk about this a lot in reality mastery. I wouldn't say they're gimmicky because they have use where they like help people figure out what's going on within themselves or guide them towards like their desired outcome, but they're nowhere near as powerful as the principles. So if you look at the principles that underlie NLP, it's just an energetic thing, right? It's like coming from a place of like certainty, conviction in yourself and your offer. Because if you're really being someone who believes in what they're offering you, you're going to speak in a certain way. You're going to have certain tonality. You're going to have certain like hand movements. So all of that, it's like, why focus on like the 10% of these little things on like the material level? Why not focus on the energetic, do those things naturally and do things that are better that people haven't even learned in NLP that you're going to know.
Absolutely.
So it's about who you're being.
Right. So that's something powerful that you've highlighted. So people focus on the 10%. Most salespeople get so hung up and, they don't close too well because they keep focusing on the techniques and the 10%. But what's the 90% that causes the 10%? It's the energetics. Like if you're communicating with a human being, you don't have to tell someone that, oh, in order to be nice, you have to go up to that person and shake their hand like this. It's like if you're a nice person, you're naturally going to extend out your hand, shake their hand, and speak to them in a certain way, in a certain tonality. All of that subconsciously happens when you focus on the right goal, right? When you focus on the underlying principles. So that's essentially what sales is, as you just described. So when did you realize that?
It's a good question again. I don't know when I realized it. I think the program is laid out in a way where like you're internalizing new principles every week and you're really like you're in a journey of self-discovery. It's not like a quick fix. It's like you're doing work. You're really looking within yourself for what's important to you, who you are, what you want. And I think it just happened like over the course of a few weeks where by the end of it, I just show up in a different way, right? Like I mean, technically, like I'm about to be sales captain or leader, whatever they call it. I'm going to run a team of like three or so. And
Wait,
I,
pause right there. So you just joined 2-3 months ago and you started this new job and now you're already getting promoted to the sales lead, the sales manager.
yeah, I credit the program 100%, honestly.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing because simply what the program did to create that was it changed who I'm being, right? So here's what it is. It's not about selling because for me, I've come to the calls and I view it as like a consultation. Can I help this person? Do we have what solution they want? Are we the right fit to work together? Are there certain roadblocks they have that they're not aware of? Can I help them realize it? Can I help them realize that we're the solution that they need? It goes beyond that because outside of that, what I do is I'm in our community, I'm helping our clients. I really care about their success. I help them with like, I guess it's not really in the job description, but it's kind of what I do just because I care about our clients and I want to see them successful. And I get that conviction from seeing people make the transformations in our program that carries over to the calls. So I think just because I'm doing all of that and I'm being someone who's like, um, a partner in the business opposed to just like a sales rep looking for commissions. At this point, I don't really care that much about the money. My goal is to 20K, but like it doesn't matter that much. But when you come from a place of like full investment in life and in your clients and their success, then you come to these calls, people are going to feel it. You're going to get promoted. You're going to become a partner in the business. All the things are going to happen because of who you're being and what you're offering life itself.
So you're saying all of those things that have happened, all the good things that have happened are simply a byproduct of you becoming the right person.
For sure. I used to be so much lazier than I am now. Now I work like, I mean, like I love the work that I do and I have like an unlimited capacity for work. I can spend all day working if I need to. I can work 5 hours, 10. It doesn't really matter. It depends on what our team needs.
Mm, that's interesting. So what did you think, in your opinion, going through the program, what was the biggest eye opener for you, the biggest perspective shift, or which module, which week, gave you the biggest insight?
Week 4 for sure. So I can talk about it one of two ways. I can talk about it in terms of like mindset or like spirituality. And I don't know what people are going to resonate with, so you can tell me.
Whichever you've had the most has had the biggest impact on you.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about it in terms of spirituality because I feel like for me at least, I was really spiritual before this. And I was like, what can this offer me that I don't already know? And I was skeptical. So, you know, hopefully people who see this who are like into like, you know, really wonderful psycho spiritual things like shamanism and all those wonderful different traditions can get some value out of this. For me, it taught me all this stuff about karma that I couldn't put together. And when I got to week 4, I realized like how the work I was doing before, it was freeing me from a lot of like karma and like dense energy and trauma I had in my body and getting to that inner point of peace. But it wasn't creating like a new destiny for myself. I was kind of going along this like predetermined like lifeline where when you're neutral, which what ancient like yogis do and people in Ayurveda, when you get to that neutrality, you're kind of still living out a sort of predetermined karma. But if you really want to create something new, like go into a new field, become a team leader, become a long-term partner in the business, do good numbers, you might need to channel that free energy and create new good karma. And the thing for me was I was always under the impression like, oh, I can just burn my karma off and like heal myself and like I'm gonna make 20K a month. That wasn't my path. I had to realize that, for me as an entrepreneur, I have to create, at least at times, create some new energy and new karma in order to hit the goals I want to hit. And it was always a trade-off because you want to be in the world as an entrepreneur, but if you're really spiritual, which I feel like I am, I also like want to like become as empty as possible. So there was this really tense trade-off. And then when I got to week 4, I was like, this right here was worth the entire program and enrolling in it because this is what I've been looking for like 3 years. And I was just there's this missing key that I picked up around that so that I feel way more in control of like my destiny now. And like even more things outside of sales have happened that are bananas because of this program, but I'll tell you about that later.
You're not open to sharing that in the interview?
Well, I can tell you now. So I just don't know if it's that off topic, but basically what I realized was my long-term vision. I don't think I'll be a sales rep forever. I think I'll be um, sort of someone who bridges psychology and like spirituality and like Eastern and Western traditions. That's kind of like my heart's true desire.
Mhm.
I'm actually doing a PhD in clinical psychology right now, but basically what this program kind of did was just going through the process. All of the mistakes that I made in my private practice and in my last like therapy course launch, around all these little tactics and principles, they kind of just reveal themselves to me throughout this process. And it kind of gave me all the steps that I need that, let's say like 10 years down the line, I want to start a ayahuasca center and a plant medicine spiritual center. I know exactly what to do now. And I have no doubt in my month that it would do at least 20K. Simply just because like the tools and principles appeared as I became really clear about who I am, what I want.
Mhm.
And it's hilarious because they were right under my nose. They were there the whole time when I was in up level, when I was creating my first business. And I just didn't see them. It was like, it was blocked out to me. But now I found literally like two things that I needed that are going to change the game for me in the long run. If I ever start like a spiritual healing center or something.
Wow, that's great. It sounds like you've had all of these like internal conflicts. Before you came in, you were just internally kind of conflicted and you were maybe kind of doubting yourself and what you believed, what you thought to be true, and you just couldn't bridge them together. And it seems like when you got to week 4, you really like it all clicked. It started working harmoniously together. Would that be accurate for me to say?
100%.
Mm. That's interesting. It's interesting to see how we start to get in our own ways because we can't, harmonize these conflicting viewpoints. We always think it's binary. It's either one way or the other. And, from what you've just described to me, I truly believe that, you joined the program at the right time. You might have been following for 3 years, but it wasn't, the right time then for you to join. You had to go through all of those things for you to join right now at this point when you're at this sales career. And then you find out the tools, because this is all a journey, right? That's unfolding, but it's all unfolding according to your will, because you have this intention, this will of where you'd like to take your life.
Exactly. 100%. I think people are drawn to like the right, you mentioned this like yesterday in school, actually. People are drawn to the right teachers, the right, tactics, the right programs at the right stage of their life based off who they are and their goals. And I think if I joined this earlier, I would have gotten nowhere near as much out of it as I did now, because right now I was at like a critical juncture. I was like between like, all right, am I going to abandon being a psychologist, which I'm in school for forever? Or like, what am I going to do? And this really helped give me the confidence that no matter what I do, it's like my standard has risen too. I mean, it's, to me, it's just so easy. I can see how to get to minimum 20K a month, no matter what I do, and use that to like, do other like ventures and like plant medicine, all these wonderful things that I want to bring to the world. But it's insane. Yeah, it was amazing timing.
That's amazing, man. Wow, it's been a real pleasure hearing about your journey, Reza. But I guess just to conclude, do you have anything you would like to share, or if someone were on the fence, about joining the program, what would you say to them?
I'd say if you're on the fence, trust your gut. I mean, trust that part of you that's like beyond the conscious mind that really knows what's true for you. And even if you have like fear of the unknown, trust your gut. Because for me, I feel like I was maybe a bit non-traditional when I came to this program, in the sense that I'd studied so many things. Like, I think I talked about them, all these different spiritual disciplines, Western psychology, all these different ways to like transform yourself. And I was like, oh, I must know everything. But no, it really humbled me, because I was like, I'm nowhere near as like well versed as I thought. And if you're even just doing this for spiritual development, it's going to do so much for you. It goes way beyond like your income. It kind of brings you in alignment with your life's path, who you really are, who you want to be. So I'd say best investment of my life, which has paid for itself like dozens of times over already. And it's been 3 months.
Wow, that's hard to live up to. Reza, thank you so much for this interview, man. I'm going to insert your socials in the description below so others can contact you, whatever you'd like. But yeah, I hope you guys got value from this. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'll see you guys next time.
All
Peace.
right. Take it easy, man.